Acts 21. And it came to be, when we had torn ourselves away from them, and had set sail, we ran a straight course, and came to Kos, and the next day to Rhodes, and from there to Patara. And having found a ship passing over to Phoenicia, we went aboard and set sail, and having sighted Cyprus, and having passed it on the left, we sailed to Syria, and landed at Sor, for the ship was to unload her cargo there. And having found taught ones, we remained there 7 days. And they told Shaul through the Spirit not to go up to Jerusalem. And when it came to be that our days there were ended, we left and went on, all of them, accompanying us, with wives and children, till we were out of the city. And kneeling down on the beach, we prayed. And having embraced one another, we boarded the ship, and they returned to their homes. And when we had completed our voyage from Sor, we came to Ptolemais, and having greeted the brothers, we stayed with them 1 day. And on the next day we left and came to Caesarea, and went into the house of Philip the evangelist, who was one of the 7, and stayed with him. Now this one had 4 maiden daughters who prophesied. And as we were staying many days, a certain prophet named Hagab came down from Yehuda. And having come to us, he took the girdle of Shaul, bound his own hands and feet, and said, Thus said the set-apart Spirit, Thus shall the Yehudim at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this girdle, and deliver him into the hands of the nations. And when we heard this, both we and those from that place begged him not to go up to Jerusalem. And Shaul answered, What do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? For I am ready not only to be bound, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of the Master Yeshua. And as he could not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, Let the desire of the Master be done. And after those days, having made ready, we went up to Jerusalem. And also some of the taught ones from Caesarea went with us, and brought with them one Nason of Cyprus, an early taught one, with whom we were to lodge. And when we had arrived in Jerusalem, the brothers received us gladly. And on the following day Shaul went in with us to Jacob, and all the elders came. And having greeted them, he was relating one by one what Elohim had done among the nations through his service. And when they heard it, they praised the Master. And they said to him, You see, brother, how many thousands of Yehudim there are who have believed, and all are ardent for the Torah. But they have been informed about you, that you teach all the Yehudim who are among the nations to forsake Moshe, saying not to circumcise the children, nor to walk according to the practices. What then is it? They shall certainly hear that you have come. So do this, what we say to you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow. Take them and be cleansed with them, and pay their expenses, so that they shave their heads, and all shall know that what they have been informed about you is not so, but that you yourself also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. But concerning the nations who believe, we have written and decided that they should keep themselves from what is offered to idols, and blood, and what is strangled, and whoring. Then Shaul took the men on the next day, and having been cleansed with them, went into the set-apart place to announce the completion of the days of separation, until the offering should be presented for each one of them. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Yehudim from Asia, seeing him in the set-apart place, were stirring up all the crowd, and they laid hands on him, crying out, Men of Yisrael, help! This is the man who is teaching the men everywhere against the people that the Torah and this place. And besides, he also brought Greeks into the set-apart place, and has profaned this set-apart place, because they had previously seen Trophimus, the Ephesian with him in the city, whom they thought that Shaul had brought into the set-apart place. And the entire city was moved, and the people rushed together and seized Shaul and dragged him out of the set-apart place, and immediately the doors were shut. And while they were seeking to kill him, a report came to the commander of the company of soldiers that all Jerusalem was in confusion. At once he took soldiers and captains and ran down to them, and they, having seen the commander and soldiers, stopped beating Shaul. Then the commander came near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and was asking who he was and what he had done. And in the crowd some were shouting this and others that, and not being able to ascertain the truth because of the uproar, he commanded him to be taken into the barracks. And when he came to the stairs, he had to be carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the crowd. For a large number of the people followed after, crying out, "Away with him!" And as Shaul was about to be led into the barracks, he said to the commander, Am I allowed to say somewhat to you? And he said, Do you know Greek? Are you not the Mitzrite, who some time ago stirred up a revolt and led the 4,000 assassins out into the wilderness? But Shaul replied, I am a Yehudi from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beg you allow me to speak to the people. And having given him permission, Shaul, standing on the stairs, motioned with his hand to the people. And when there was a great silence, he spoke in Hebrew language, saying, chapter 22, Men, brothers and fathers, hear my defense before you now. And when they heard that he spoke to them in the Hebrew language, they kept great silence, and he said, I am indeed a Yehudi, having been born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, having been instructed according to the exactness of the Torah of our fathers, being ardent for Elohim, as you all are today, who persecuted this way to the death, binding and delivering up into prisons both men and women. Also the high priest bears me witness, and all the eldership, from whom I also received letters to the brothers, and went to Damascus to bring in chains, even those who were there to Jerusalem to be punished. And it came to be, as I was journeying and coming near Damascus about noon, suddenly a great light shone around me out of the heaven, and I fell to the ground and heard a voice say to me, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? And I answered, Who are you, Master? And he said to me, I am Yeshua of Nazareth, whom you persecute. And those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear his voice speaking to me. And I said, What shall I do, Master? And the Master said to me, Rise up, go into Damascus, and there you shall be told all that you would have been appointed to do. And as I could not see because of the esteem of that light, being led by the hand of those who were with me, I came into Damascus, and a certain Hananiah, a dedicated man according to Torah, being well spoken of by all the Yehudim dwelling there, came to me and stood by and said to me, Brother Shaul, look up. And at that same hour I looked up at him, and he said, The Elohim of our fathers has appointed you to know his desire, and to see the righteous one, and to hear the voice from his mouth, because you shall be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard. And now, why do you delay? Rise up, be immersed, and wash away your sins, calling on the name of Yahweh. And it came to be, when I returned to Jerusalem, and while I was praying in the set-apart place, I came to be in a trance. And I saw him saying to me, Hurry and get out of Jerusalem speedily, because they shall not accept your witness concerning me. And I said, Master, they know that in every congregation I was imprisoning and beating those who believe in you. And when the blood of your witness Stephanos was shed, I also was standing by, giving my approval to his death, and keeping the garments of those who were killing him. And he said to me, Go, because I shall send you far from here to the nations. And they were listening to him until this word. And then they lifted up their voice, saying, Away with such a one from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. And as they were shouting and tearing their garments and throwing dust in the air, the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks and said that he should be examined by flogging, in order to find out why they were shouting so against him. And as they were stretching him out with straps, Shaul said to the captain who was standing by, Is it permitted for you to whip a man who is a Roman and uncondemned? And when the captain heard, he went and reported to the commander, saying, Watch what you are about to do, for this man is a Roman. And having come, the commander said to him, Say to me, Are you a Roman? And he said, Yes. And the commander answered, With a large sum I obtained this citizenship. And Shaul said, But I was even born so. Then at once those who were about to examine him withdrew from him. And the commander was also afraid after he found out that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him. And on the next day, intending to know for certain why he was accused by the Yehudim, he released him, and commanded the chief priests and all their council to come, and brought Shaul down, and set him before them. Chapter 23. And Shaul, looking intently at the council, said, Men, brothers, I have lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this day. And the high priest Hananiah commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Shaul said to him, Elohim is going to strike you, whitewashed wall. And do you sit judging me according to the Torah? And do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah? And those who stood by said, Do you revile the high priest of Elohim? And Shaul said, I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest, for it has been written, You shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people. Now Shaul, perceiving that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, cried out in the council, Men, brothers, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. I am being judged concerning the expectation and resurrection of the dead. And when he had said this, there came a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the crowd was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor messenger, nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. And there was a great uproar. And certain of the scribes in the party of Pharisees were earnestly contending, saying, We find no evil in this man, and if a spirit or messenger has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim. And a great dissension having come, the commander, fearing lest Shaul would be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the body of soldiers go down and seize him from under their midst and bring him into the barracks. And on the following night the master stood by him and said, Take courage, Shaul, for as you have witnessed for me in Jerusalem, so you have to bear witness at Rome too. And when it became day, some of the Yehudim made a conspiracy and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Shaul. And those making this conspiracy were more than 40, who, having come to their chief priests and elders, said, We have bound ourselves under a great oath not to eat at all until we have killed Shaul. Now then, you with the council inform the commander to have him brought down to you tomorrow, as intending to examine more exactly all about him, and we are ready to kill him before he comes near. And when Shaul's sister's son heard of their ambush, he went and entered into the barracks and reported to Shaul. And Shaul, having called one of the captains to him, said, Take this young man to the commander, for he has somewhat to report to him. He indeed then took him and led him to the commander and said, The prisoner Shaul called me to him and asked me to bring this young man to you, having somewhat to say to you. And the commander, having taken him by the hand, went aside by themselves and asked, What is it that you have to report to me? And he said, The Yehudim have agreed to ask that you bring Shaul down to the council tomorrow, as intending to inquire more exactly about him. Therefore do not let them persuade you, for more than 40 of them lie in wait for him, men who have bound themselves by an oath, neither to eat nor to drink until they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for the promise from you." Then the commander dismissed the young man, having commanded him, "Inform no one that you have reported this to me." And having called near a certain 2 captains, he said, "Get 200 soldiers ready to go to Caesarea, and 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen after the 3rd hour of the night, and provide beasts on which to place Shaul and bring him safely to Felix the governor." Having written a letter in this form, Claudius Lysias, to the most excellent governor Felix, greetings. This man, having been seized by the Yehudim, and being about to be killed by them, I rescued, having come with the body of soldiers, having learned that he was a Roman, and desiring to know the reason they accused him, I brought him before their council. I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, but there was no charge against him deserving death or chains. And when I was informed that there was to be a plot against the man by the Yehudim, I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Be strong. So the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Shaul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the next day they left the horsemen to go on with him, and returned to the barracks, who, having come to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Shaul to him. And the governor, having read it, and having asked for what province he was, and being informed that he was from Cilicia, and said, "I shall hear you when your accusers arrive also." And he commanded him to be kept in Herodes' palace. Chapter 24. And after 5 days, the high priest Hananiah came down with the elders and a certain speaker, Tertullus, and they brought charges against Shaul before the governor. And when he was called upon, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, "Having obtained great peace through you, and reforms being brought to this nation by your forethought, we accept it always and in all places, most excellent Felix, with all thanks. But in order not to hinder you any further, I beg you hear us briefly in your gentleness. For having found this man a plague who stirs up dissension among all the Yehudim throughout the world, and ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes, who also tried to profane the set-apart place, and whom we seized and wished to judge him according to our law. But the commander, Lysias, came along with his much violence, took him out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come to you, and by examining him yourself, you shall be able to know all these matters of which we accuse him." And the Yehudim also agreed, maintaining that these matters were so. And when the governor had motioned him to speak, Shaul answered, knowing that for many years you have been a judge of this nation, I gladly defend myself, seeing you are able to know what it is not more than 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem to worship. And they neither found me in the set-apart place disputing with anyone, nor stirring up the crowd, either in the congregations or in the city. Nor are they able to prove the charges of which they now accuse me. And this I confess to you, that according to the way which they call a sect, so I worship the Elohim of my fathers, believing all that has been written in the Torah and in the prophets, having an expectation in Elohim, which they themselves also wait for, that there is to be a resurrection of the dead, both of the righteous and the unrighteous. And in this I exercise myself to have a clear conscience toward Elohim and men always. And after many years I came to bring kind deeds to my nation, and offerings at which time certain Yehudim from Asia found me cleansed in the set-apart place, neither with a crowd nor with a disturbance, who ought to be present before you to bring charges if they have any matter against me. Or else let these themselves say if they found any wrongdoing in me while I stood before the council, other than for this one declaration which I cried out, stating among them, concerning the resurrection of the dead, I am being judged by you today. And having heard this, having known more exactly about the way, Felix put them off, saying, when Lysias the commander comes down, I shall decide your case. And he ordered the captain to keep Shaul and to have ease, and not to forbid any of his friends to attend to him. And after some days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was a female Yehudi, he sent for Shaul and heard him concerning the belief in Messiah. And as he reasoned about righteousness and self-control and the judgment to come, Felix became frightened and said, for the present go, and when I find time I shall send for you. At the same time, too, he was anticipating that money would be given him by Shaul, that he might release him. Therefore he sent for him more often and conversed with him. But after 2 years had passed, Porcius Festus succeeded Felix, and wishing to do the Yehudim a favor, Felix left Shaul bound. Chapter 25. Festus, therefore, having come to the province 3 days later, went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem. And the high priest and the chief men of the Yehudim informed him against Shaul, and they begged him, asking a favor against him, that he would send him to Jerusalem, making a plot along the way to kill him. Then indeed Festus answered that Shaul should be kept at Caesarea, and that he himself was about to set out shortly. Therefore he said, let those who have authority among you go down with me and accuse this man, to see if there is any fault in him. And having spent more than 10 days among them, he went down to Caesarea. And on the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, he commanded Shaul to be brought. And when he had come to the Yehudim who had come down from Jerusalem, stood about, bringing many and heavy charges against Shaul, which they were unable to prove. While Shaul said in his own defense, neither against the Torah of the Yehudim, nor against the set-apart place, nor against Caesar did I commit any sin. But Festus, wishing to do the Yehudim a favor, answering Shaul, said, do you wish to go up to Jerusalem and be judged before me there concerning these matters? And Shaul said, I am standing at Caesar's judgment seat, where I should be judged. To the Yehudim I have done no wrong, as you know well enough. For if indeed I do wrong, or have committed whatever deserving death, I do not refuse to die. But if there is none at all in these matters of which these men accuse me, no one is able to give me up to them. I appeal to Caesar. Then Festus, having talked with the council, answered, you have appealed to Caesar. To Caesar you shall go. And certain days having passed, Sovereign Agrippa and Bernice came to Caesarea to greet Festus. And when they had spent many days there, Festus laid Shaul's case before the sovereign, saying, there is a man here, whom Felix left as a prisoner, about whom the chief priests and the elders of the Yehudim informed me when I was in Jerusalem, asking for a judgment against him. To them I answered, it is not the Roman practice to give up any man to destruction before the accused meets the accusers face to face, and has a chance to answer for himself concerning the charges against him. They therefore, having come together, without any delay, I sat on the judgment seat the next day and commanded the man to be brought in. When the accusers stood up, they brought no charge against him such as I expected, but had some questions against him about their own worship, and about certain Yeshua who had died, whom Shaul was claiming to be alive. And being uncertain how to investigate these matters, I asked whether he wished to go to Jerusalem and there be judged concerning these matters. But when Shaul appealed to be kept for the decision of Augustus, I ordered him to be kept until I send him to Caesar. And Agrippa said to Festus, I was wishing also to hear the man myself. And he said, Tomorrow you shall hear him. Therefore on the next day Agrippa and Bernice, having come with great show, and having entered the palace of hearing with the commanders and the eminent men of the city, Shaul was brought in at the order of Festus. And Festus said, Sovereign Agrippa, and all the men present here with us, you see this one about whom all the community of the Yehudim pleaded with me, both at Jerusalem and here, shouting that he ought not be living any longer. But I, having found that he had committed none at all deserving death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, I decided to send him. I have no definite matter to write to my master concerning him. Therefore, I have brought him out before you, most of all before you, Sovereign Agrippa, so that after the examination has taken place, I might have somewhat to write, for it seems to me unreasonable to send a prisoner and not to satisfy the charges against him. Shalom.